Hello everyone, this is Dr. Dennis Harper. Today we're going to have fun. We're going to unbox and start to use your personal ozone machine. Now I'm going to show you several options, several ideas from the basic model you want to look at to more advanced models to some of the items you get with the machine. So we're going to go through all of these little particulars of what makes this work. When you go to order, and we will help you with that, is we look at the basic model. EXT50 ozone generator from Longevity. That's the basic one. So you're looking at roughly $1,000 plus on that machine. Now to go up the next level, you're going to go to the EXT120, and there's two models. One's more computerized than the other. Those are the two units we recommend for home use. If you can afford this one, you're going to be upwards of $3,000 by the time you ship everything with it. This will do the most good for you. And this is something you can use daily. So realize it's not something you're going to buy and sit in a closet. You're going to use these things. So I would recommend that unit for a home unit, and for some doctors that are using some very limited ozone, it's a great machine. But those are the two choices. We use in the office the machine here, which is not what you're going to use at home. So the Quantum 5, and we'll have that. So we'll demonstrate with that machine. That's the machine we have here. So let's talk about this. You get the machine and you unbox it. So it will come with or without, and we'll talk about the T120. It'll come with a stand. It's a plastic stand that comes up. It looks like a box, and it will stand up, and you can attach it to the stand there, and then attach some of the parts and pieces to that. Now, so let's talk about what you're actually getting. What you're getting in the box, and we'll just say this is a T120, you're getting an ozone generator. An ozone generator takes oxygen and puts it into the machine to make ozone, and ozone comes out. So with that said, we're going to talk about very specifically oxygen. And when you order your machine, for most 99% of you, you're going to order industrial oxygen. You will get a tank from Longevity, or you can go down and rent a tank from an oxygen dealer, and someone that does welding supplies, oxygen supplies. The big difference people get hung up on is medical oxygen. If you use medical oxygen, you have to get a different adapter, and I don't recommend that for home use, because you then have to buy medical oxygen. In some states, medical oxygen, it can only be purchased with a prescription. So industrial oxygen, you'll find it'll have a fitting like this on at the end of it, and that's what you're going to use for your oxygen supply. So you'll get your tank filled with oxygen. Now the only difference between medical grade oxygen and industrial oxygen is they flush the tank once, and you're looking at small trace amounts of nitrogen potentially in the industrial oxygen. Honestly, it does not bother these machines at all and will not bother you. So I would not be concerned about that as an individual having a machine for home use. In the box when you get it, when you order, there's a couple things I want you to make sure that you have when you order. And some will come with it, and some you have to get. You're going to find several different things here. One of the things here is going to be this funny little cylinder here with this plastic things on it. And that's one thing that will be intimidating to start with, is trying to figure out these plastic fittings. They have several different types of fittings. They have male, female fittings. Some fit into one thing, some don't fit another thing. So you got to figure out which goes to which. So it's pretty plug and play when you figure it out. You're going to find one fitting will go into your machine, and it'll go out to devices. So let's talk about the devices, and then you can kind of figure out where they go in the system and when you use them. The ozone destruct. Now we'll tell you that the quantum destructor is in the machine. The other machines, the T120 and the T50, have an external ozone destruct. In other words, the ozone, when you go to use it, if you don't use it, put it in a syringe or in a bag or bubble it, it goes into the air. And you don't want to breathe a lot of ozone just in the air. So you want to minimize that. And that's where the ozone destruct comes into play. And I'll show you how to hook these up in a minute, and you'll get an example how to do this. So ozone destructor is one thing you'll get. One thing you will not get unless you order it is a stethoscope. I'm going to tell you this because for sinuses, for brain function, for eyes, the ear insufflation is what it's called, is a phenomenal unit. Now, one thing I'm going to show you right now, which will make some sense here, is if we look at some of the lines here, these are kind of a hazy, not a clear plastic line. And you will get, with longevity, several different attachments, hoses, clips. We'll talk about those in a minute. But what I'm going to tell you right now is that these two lines, you see, one is a plastic line and one is a silicone line. Now remember, once you produce ozone, you need to run it through a silicone line or a glass because it will take and erode plastics. Good example of this is an old pepcock we use. This is a pepcock. It turns the ozone on and off. And you probably can't see very well, but see the discoloration compared to a new one? This is broken down with time. It's older, one of the plastic ones, instead of the silicone ones, which are the new ones. And it eats this valve away, which is plastic, also with time. So realize that you want to check these when you get them and make sure they're functional after you've used them a long time. And this one has silicone because it comes out of the machine. So the third thing you want to make sure you have is catheter bags. And I'll show you how to fill these in a minute. But these are for rectal and vaginal insufflation. And that procedure is all written down. We have that written out, how to do that, and the protocol written out you'll be able to receive from us. So we will fill that bag and show you that works in a minute, show you how these things hook up in a second here. The other thing you're going to get that will come with the unit most of the time, and if you're not, you want to make sure, is you want to get a 1,000 ml bubbler. Looks like a still. But what it does is it bubbles the ozone. And by bubbling the ozone, you're able to keep this in the fridge afterwards and drink ozone for the duration of a week. And you keep it capped in a glass jar and hopefully a glass lid on it preferably, or something that will seal it over. So that's for bubbling water. You may also receive or decide to get something to ozonate oil. Now, it's not something I recommend doing because if you do a bunch of it, there's some hazards with doing oil. I recommend generally getting the ozonated oils from Longevity directly. They do them commercially, they do a good job, it's done well. And realize that ozone will stay stable in oil for almost an indefinite period of time. So it can be in olive oils or different oils it can be put into, but that's something to remember. Water, it has a half-life, so it breaks down over a week. That's why you store it in the refrigerator. And you can also take and freeze these into ice cubes and suck on ozonated ice cubes if you're so inclined. Now, I will say also that ozone in the air has a half-life. If you put it in a bag here and ozonate it, you're going to have about a 30 to 40 minute half-life, and after about an hour, hour and a half, you don't have a lot of ozone left in the bag. So it wants to be used usually within 10 to 20 minutes is really preferable. So we've talked about the basics here, and then we'll go forward in specific utilization of how the tank hooks up and everything hooks up. Today we're going to hook your regulator up to your oxygen tank. And this is for a longevity machine, and you'll get a regulator that looks like this. It has a dial on it with numbers on it, which is your pressure. it has a line going out. You notice it's a clear line. That's running oxygen. You can run clear lines with oxygen, not having to use the silicone line. So it's a clear line that will go up to your machine. We'll hook it up in a minute. So as I've said, if you buy the T50 or the 120 or even the other machines, you're going to get a regulator. You're going to get industrial oxygen or medical oxygen. I want you to notice just briefly here, the medical oxygen one looks like it has claws in it and teeth in it to bite into the oxygen tank. It doesn't have a hole like this. This is an industrial fitting. This is what you get at an oxygen supplier that either can rent a tank or buy one from Longevity. If you use a machine a lot, I would suggest having 2 tanks. We fill our own tanks here at the office. That's not something you're going to be doing at home. So, oxygen tank. To hook it up, you're going to find that you want to make sure your oxygen is off. Because I can tell you, you leave this tank on very long, you'll have no oxygen in no matter of minutes. And you have high pressure behind it. OSHA standards and just safety is, I suggest everyone have this oxygen tank secure. I don't care where you put it in your house or you have it, but have it secure, and then a line that will go up to your machine. So this comes hooked up generally from Longevity together. So you see this line will be hooked to the regulator. It's called a pediatric regulator, specially designed for your machine. There's a serial number on it. You'll match that to the machine. Don't be using this on other machines. You'll get inaccurate volumes of air, which will change your quality of ozone you get. So I'm going to take this machine regulator and screw onto the tank. It's a clockwise thread. You can hand tighten it, and if you turn lightly as you put pressure on that, it'll tighten nicely. It's snugly fit, it's secure down. The next step we'll do is we'll actually hook this up to our machine. Okay, here's something that's extremely critical. It seems silly, but it's really critical, is hooking your oxygen line to your machine. And it's important that it's hooked up. If it's not hooked up, you'll miss oxygen. So what we're going to do here is it'll go into this fitting. These are plastic fittings. You want to be careful not to over tighten these fittings and thus break them. So we're going to find that to go on this fitting, the hose has some tension on it. If we turn it slightly, rotate it, and it will rotate nicely on to the machine. So we back turn it compared to the way it turns. Otherwise, you can see it just spins right off. So what we do is turn slightly, let those go forward, run snugly on there, and you have that connected. The other connection you're going to find is your plug-in. We have a regular plug-in here, pretty self-explanatory, plugs into the machine, and you have now plugged in the machine to your oxygen tank and to your power source. So a brief note here, we're going to talk about the regulator again now that we have it hooked to the machine. Make sure we're tight here, is we looked at the regulator and we can start with it on the off position. So you'll see it's very clearly marked off, and you turn this and just hit off. We turn the tank 1/4 turn on. Now I say that because if you turn the tank on a whole bunch, you're going to end up not knowing if it's on or off, and you could leave it on and lose your oxygen. Now, when this is off and this is off, there is no flow of oxygen to your machine. To use your machine, you do not want to turn your machine on until you have oxygen and it's flowing. And it doesn't matter if it's 1/16, 1/32, 1/16, 1/8, whatever flow rate you get of this oxygen needs to be on before you turn your machine on, so you don't risk screwing up your generator in the machine. Thank you for attending the first of how to set up your machine. Now that you've set it up, you're going, what do I do with it? So we offer consultations by phone or by Zoom or both. We have daily rates, nightly rates, and weekend rates. So please call, set a time. There will be a link below here that will let you go into our program and to schedule an appointment. We appreciate you all, and this is Dr. Dennis Harper. Look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.